It's a hot take. So I have a hot take for you. My hot take? Well, I think some artists need to put a little more energy in their live set. Overly complicated tracks are things that kind of ruin a track for me. Don't stick to any kind of genre label.
Future bass is the worst music genre ever created.
Barber Beats was the original vaporwave. Fuck General MIDI Choir. It's all bad.
Bruh.
Worst album artwork I've ever seen is Green Day's Father of All Motherfuckers, probably.
I find new music often, and I usually illegally download it.
Stuff that sounds good. Sampleless vaporwave is still vaporwave, buddy.
MIDI wave is a form of vaporwave. Deal with it.
Gen Z's the future of vaporwave. I said it. What is your musical guilty pleasure, Vapebearer?
It's gotta be K-pop.
If you don't like mint chocolate chip ice cream, you are a baby.
Music isn't real.
I smell weed. I'm Dan Mason. This is Vapebearer.
This is FM Skyline.
This is Mesh.
Yo, this is Groovy Kaiju. This is Christ. You're listening to
Hot Takes.
That's the one.
Don't touch my records. Ever.
Oh no, I pressed the wrong button. What's up, guys? Welcome to Hot Takes. It's me, Young Shiro. Hopefully you did not hear the thunder in the background. But, oh man. He cut off his camera, so now you're off camera. But say hello to everybody, Skelly.
Hi.
Also, I'm in the space where you are, so nobody can see you. Which is good, because he's naked.
Oh, no.
Just kidding. Hot Takes is a vaporwave talk show, guys, where we get to talk about independent electronic music and art, and we get to talk about it with you, and we bring on various artists that are in the scene or adjacent to the scene, so that you can get out your frustrations and argue and debate and geek out with people. All we ask is that you punch up, no punching down. Oh, here he goes. Thanks for coming back. When you cut off your camera, it moved everything around. But it's okay. Guys, we've got a very special guest tonight. Navigator, if you're not familiar, has been around since the very early vaporwave and synthwave and just independent early 2010s chillwave and electronic music era that Skelly and I both love. He's dabbled with vaporwave, synthwave, like neo R&B shit. His mixtape, Infinity Volume 1, is literally like a flawless album, start to finish. But that's enough fangirling from me. If you're not familiar, you best figure out about Navigator, because if you like chillwave, synthwave, or vaporwave, you'll love his work. We're excited to have him here tonight. I'm going to turn myself down a little bit. We talked about the no punching down thing. Want to go over the commands. We've got follow. You want to follow everybody or follow our socials? Please do so. We got Skelly, so you can follow Skelly, see what he's doing. We got me, Shiro. Follow me. We got the Discord. Jump in the Discord server. We argue about things like mosh pits, Arby's, all kinds of fun stuff. We talk about pickles. Believe it or not, there's people out there that don't like pickles. So jump in the Discord server and ask them what's wrong with them. Donate if you feel so led. All donations go towards equipment upgrades and commissioning our friends for artwork. Hey, if you feel like you want to donate, it means so much. And Spotify. Well, guess what? We got a new Spotify playlist. We finally updated the official Hot Takes playlist with a lot of great favorites that I've been bumping lately. So check it out. Some of my favorite tracks from the last year are on that Spotify playlist. So check it out if you've been looking for something new to bump. I think that's a sufficient intro. I'll go ahead and get started with the Rex. Then Skelly will do our take, and we'll introduce you guys to Navigator. But just a reminder, questions are... We ask that you hold all questions until the top of the hour. All right, so on my playlist, these recommendations are brought to you guys today by the letter M. I pull in a lot of music, so I tend to have a bad habit of just lumping them all together by the letter. Just makes it easy for me to not forget. So we're gonna talk about the letter M today. I want to recommend a dream punk album, right? Vapor adjacent, right? Some ambient electronic music by a dream catalog artist called the Microgram. If you like ambient music, if you like dream punk or just like dark, vibes, and ambience, check out Everything in Decay by the Microgram. Little difficult to buy the album. I don't know what David's doing, but he has it priced at £1,000 on the Dream Catalog Bandcamp in grand David style. And the Microgram's own label just points, or his own site just points to Dream Catalog. I bought it on Apple Music. I messaged David, didn't get a response. Is what it is, but personally, I like to pay my part. So I definitely recommend Everything in Decay by the Microgram. Sounds like we've got some fans. Definitely Soulseek is out there. I don't know how much that artist is going to see from my Apple purchase. The Spotify playlist link, Casper Town, if you hit ! Spotify, takes you to our main Spotify. And then you can just, it's up there. Check out the Microgram. Also, recommend if you like synthwave or dark synth, kind of an older album. Maybe this rec is ill-timed because his new album just came out. But check out Seas of Infinity by Mega Drive. Skelly, you're probably a fan. If you like Carpenter Brute, if you like Perturbator, Master Boot Record, there's another big one whose name I'm forgetting.
Definitely will be playing a lot of Mega Drive at Eclipse.
Good. I love Mega Drive, and when I was planning to play with you, I absolutely planned to bump some Mega Drive. And that'll happen at some point. Seas of Infinity is kind of an odd one in his catalog. It's got some bangers. It's got some soft kind of melodic moments. But it's definitely a solid entry. It's no 1986 AD or 1990X AD, but it's definitely qualified for my recommendation today. And again, if you like bombastic sounds and just like angry, violent 80s influences, check out Seas of Infinity by Mega Drive. And then finally, I'd like to round my recommendations out with a very highly, at least to me, very highly anticipated album that I actually just got on physical today. Let me reach over here away from the microphone and pull it out. So, shout out John Zobelli. I got on CD, y'all can laugh if you want, Maggie.Wave's Rainbow Smears. If you guys don't know Maggie.Wave, they make some of the most, Their first album was called Arena Fantasy, and it's a really well thought out name because it's like arena rock for vaporwave. It's very, very full and very just lush and just monumental sounding vaporwave. Very punchy, very hard hitting, very, very beautiful. And Maggie.Wave kind of disappeared for a minute and came back. And if you guys don't know, also, Maggie.Wave is the person who made the, I believe it was Dream Sequence. Correct me if I'm wrong. Alex probably knows, but he did the entire music video / video.
Yeah, I remember.
You know what I'm talking about. I don't. Yeah. The phrase for what it is escaping me, but the whole video, he with the help of Mesh sourced all the samples and did that himself. He goes by Magnus Prophecy, and Maggie.Wave is just a shortening of that. Well, that project is unfortunately over, but if you like extremely lush and just arena rock but vaporwave, somebody mentioned DDS. If you like DDS, you'd probably like Maggie.Wave. A lot less of the mournful vocal sounds, but anyways, I'm going to go ahead and link it, and I'm going to definitely recommend to check out Maggie.Wave's Rainbow Smears and his new project Prismer with forthcoming material. And with that, I cede my spot to Dr. Skeleton Lipstick with today's hot take.
Okay, so I guess one thing that we should talk about with the many live performances coming up again soon is, what does that mean? What is the live performance supposed to look like for the artists involved in this scene? Have we done the laptop thing too much at this point? Should we be branching out from it? Have we done the sampler thing too much? Should we be branching out from it? Should we do some kind of combination of those things? I think that it's time that we start looking at other ways of doing this that look interesting. That's one of the things. So I've been working on a new album. I'm just about done it. And the one thing I keep thinking about with it is, okay, well, once I'm done it, how am I going to present this? Do I, because it's not exactly like DJ material. I mean, it can be, but it's not exactly like that. So, and then I'm I don't really want to, I could have a laptop. It would be fine doing that, but I don't really necessarily want that. I did the Helios performance I did That was an APC. That was an Ableton
Nice.
controller, and I had my computer off to the side so it couldn't be seen.
Clean.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, well, is that enough? Like, should we be incorporating more things into this? Should we be having people on stage doing other things with us? Like maybe have
Oh, good
some kind of,
point.
I remember like a live drummer. Is this a thing that we should
Yeah.
be thinking
Or
about?
dancers
should we
like
be
King
trying
Quartz?
to figure out some other stuff? I'm trying to. And one of the things I was looking at, I think when I'm having experience with the Pioneer DJS. This thing looks like a little sampler, but it fits.
It looks like a
in
CDJ.
It looks like a CDJ, but it's a sampler. And I've been looking at this thing like for the last like 2.5 years or so, and debating whether I should think about putting something like that in there. And I don't know. I think that it is time that we started coming up with some new ways of presenting things, and things like that look interesting to me because guess what? You can have the DJ decks next to it, and then you can have a sampler involved as well. But I think I'm actually excited to talk to Navigator, and I bring up this as the hot take because I know that he has a bunch of cool stuff. Like, you know, one of my favorite, however, I would say one of my favorite live performances has been like the Orograph performances.
Oh,
that man
yeah.
somehow was able to like incorporate new technology along with vintage synths. Now, not everybody has to be Orograph though. Like, that's a crazy high bar to set. But I did like the fact that he was being novel with his setup. You know, he had a sampler, he had one of his vintage synths with him, and then he had a new thing, and he somehow made that work. And I thought that was pretty damn cool. And when I see people do that, I'm like, well, how do I come up with something that's my thing? You know what I mean? That's like his thing. How do I get my thing? That's why I was looking at that DJ thing. That looks cool. And it's tough too because you're trying to think about ways to do it that haven't exactly been done. And if you can come up with that sort of thing, if you can come up with a unique setup, that is a really cool thing because now that becomes uniquely your own and there's part of your live personality, live performance personality. You know what I mean? And that's really a good thing to think about. So I feel like we should all be thinking about things. You can still have the laptop, but maybe is there one or two other things that you can incorporate next to it that differentiates you from everybody else who wants to do something live? It's just something to think about. You know what I mean? There's no wrong answer.
Dress up
to
like
this.
a character from Shrek.
I mean, but like, you know, Jeff comes and he has his bass occasionally, right? Jeff does a few different things out there. You know, I think one of the things that as more of you people start to enter into the live performance, you know, sphere, that you should start thinking about that. You know, you should start thinking about something that you're going to do that is slightly different than everybody else so that you don't, you know, blend in. You know, you stand out. It's one thing to stand out musically. It's another thing to stand out performance-wise. Wear an outfit. Do that.
Or you could be like me and just like wear yourself the fuck out. Yeah, do like Lux.
Do like Lux and just like be like totally intense and wear a fun outfit too. You know what I mean? Like that was cool too. Like that's another thing. You know what I mean? That's different. And do something like that.
Hell yeah. That's a great take.
Yeah.
And I do agree. Even though I am a laptop DJ, I do agree.
Well, you know, I mean, you're DJing too. I mean, but like, I'm talking about like, you know, when you're doing like stuff that can't necessarily be DJ'd exactly.
I feel
like
that.
Live performance stuff, you know.
I feel that. Maybe we should see what Navigator thinks about it. What do you guys think?
That's why I bring it up too.
Let's bring on the king of the OG
You Amen
scene.
Tobin with the big cubes. I'd love to see someone do some. I love Amen.
Oh
Tobin.
yeah,
I
I
love
remember
those cubes.
that.
I remember those cubes.
Yeah, I saw Holy Other open for him like early 2010s.
I
Pretty
remember
crazy.
you
I
told me
remember
about
those
that.
cubes. Yeah.
Holy
we're gonna
Other
go.
didn't do much for his live performance. He
No, he had the
done-
rag over his head because he was like scared and nervous. But honestly,
that's
I
kind
lived
of
for it.
That's kind of interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're gonna
All
go
right,
ahead and bring.
anyway.
We're gonna go ahead and bring you on camera there, Mr. Navigator, sir. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. What's up, buddy?
Hello, hello.
We're so excited
go.
that you chose to join us tonight, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's been a
an
long
honor,
time.
and a privilege.
You're too kind. What do you think about what Skelly had to say?
Man, yeah, we could talk for endless amounts of time on this subject. Like, because we kind of went like beyond like just hardware versus like laptops a little bit. We're getting into like what differentiates you as a
Like
performer,
showmanship.
and yeah, like
I think that actually is the thing. It's not a hardware versus laptop thing any
Okay,
longer.
yeah.
I think it's your setup. Is it interesting? Is it something different? Can it be a calling card for what you are like during your live performances? Oh, he's going to have the thing with him.
Can you
Yeah,
wear a
actually
disco
does.
ball on your head the entire time?
Yeah. You wear a disco ball on your head the entire. There you go. That's another one.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's. I mean, you know, you look at like the beat community, like all they use is like a one SP404 for their entire set. Like, you know, like
I mean, that's
but
like a
there's
lot
still
of
engaging shows, you know.
Sure, we
Yeah.
have like vaporwave artists who do that as well. Who have the
Yeah.
SP, you know, they do that too. Yeah.
Totally. So like, it kind of comes down to you and like
I
what you're.
got one.
Oh,
Nice.
you've got the big boy.
Yeah,
Come
it's,
on. Ooh, big boy.
they say that the DJ FX one isn't as good as this one as it is on the 404 though. But anyway,
Oh, okay, yeah,
but I still like it.
yeah. No, they're rad. I mean, but yeah, like I think it's more about just like what you put into the live show. I mean, you look like George Clanton, and
Yeah.
his live shows are incredible, and he doesn't really have much up there. I mean, I think nowadays he's like every now and then have like a drummer or something like that.
Yeah, he's still got the curtain with the dot
curtain.
matrix. Yeah.
He puts a lot into the show, and it's just one person, and you feel like you're having this kind of like out of body experience, you know, like so. But I do agree. Like, I think it also comes down to like there's like the audience side of it, and then I think there's also like you as a person. Like, why are you like making the music? Like, you want to be fun for yourself. So like, do what's fun, and if you can have that level of fun with just like an APC controller,
Yeah.
or like a single piece of gear, like do that, you know, and then just like as long as people see that you're into it, like chances are the crowd will get into it.
Yeah.
But,
That's good. Yeah, that's good advice.
I don't know. That's my take on the hot take.
I was actually talking with Data Girl, that's right, about that. And she kind of was talking about, like, well, there's two types of DJs. You know, there's the ones that read the crowd and that, like, give the crowd what they want. And then there's the performance DJs. And, like, the only way you can kind of really get away with that is if you, like, have, you know, like, some, like, not a gimmick, but, you know, like a calling card. And I was like, yeah. You know, like just wearing yourself the fuck out on stage, like, it transmits that energy, I think, to the audience if you ended up having to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that sort of statement alone, there's sort of like an interesting distinction that we could also get into, which is like, are you a DJ like when you're doing like a producer? I call them producer sets. Like maybe
Yeah, I
that's
call producer sets too. It's very different than like being in a club and doing stuff. Yeah, for sure. I agree completely.
And I make a distinction between
too,
like
yeah.
I'm not a DJ, even though I will DJ occasionally. Like I'm doing one this weekend, but I feel more in my zone with like my producer sets, like because I have a very specific way that I like to perform. Like I use a mixture of like, you know, Ableton laptop controllers and like actual synthesizers, samplers. But I do that just so I can have more flexibility. In that scenario that you mentioned, I definitely feel like I'm more on the latter side. Like the way I have things set up, it's sort of less like I'm sticking to a set. I'm sticking to like telling the story or whatever, like when I'm performing live, and that's kind of what you get a little bit, for better or worse. But I admire and respect people who have more flexible setups to like just do stuff on the fly. Like
Me
I feel
too.
like I've definitely seen performances like that. So I don't know. I think you can put on a good show in either scenario. Like I think one of my earliest shows was actually with Tycho, believe it or not, like in Tampa a while back. Yeah, this is
Badass.
I don't know how I got that show, but I was talking to him a little bit, and he was saying like he tried to make like the visual aspect and like the performance a little more like on the fly, like earlier on. Nowadays it's more like preset and pre-programmed, because like I guess it's like less stuff can go wrong that way. Like you have more control over the story you're trying to tell. So like I don't know, I think that's valid too, you know, like
I do
think
too.
the output's the main.
I think the only
thing that
people that are going to be
see.
judging you are other artists and DJs.
Maybe, yeah, and even then it's like
it's good to do your work and be good, you know, like be good at your craft. But more than anything, I think you need to please the crowd, right? These people want a good show. The venue you're at wants to make money. More importantly, I was literally just talking with Lux about this, you know, regarding using equipment I'm unfamiliar with, untrained on. You know, I don't make music, I just DJ. But like more than anything, I think I owe the audience a guarantee that the show's going to be fun and good. You know, not that I'm going to be like Mr. Good DJ, man.
again, like, I think if people see part of it, a big part of it, in my opinion, is like, if I see that you're having a good time, like, I'm gonna feel more into it, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like when I saw Lux play her first set, like, and she put on that mask and then just kind of like just hit play and started dancing, like the entire room started just like dancing and like, because it was just infectious, you know. So I think there's a big part, like the energy that you're projecting in the room, like, and also the vibe, you know, like you might have more like serious moments in your set, so like if you're really like putting yourself out there or whatever, like, and people see that, then I don't know, I feel like that's appreciated. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I feel that, and I agree.
Yeah.
Very cool. We usually like to spend the first part of the show kind of going over some biographical stuff, and Skelly usually kind of heralds that questionnaire. Fire away, Captain.
So, Mr. Navigator Carlos, when you've been making music for a long time, when did you start doing this? Like, when did you really start even thinking you wanted to make music? How old were you?
Well, I started with guitar like at a very young age.
Okay. How old were you?
That was maybe like I don't even remember. I think it was like I was very young. I was a kid. I was like 9 maybe or something like that.
Oh wow! What made you want to pick up guitar?
I don't even think it was. I don't remember, honestly. I think it was sort of like bestowed upon me. Like, here's a thing to try. My grandfather like gave me this guitar, or bought me my first guitar, and
Did you have
I
a
just
musical family, or was it just they wanted to give you a guitar and see what would happen?
I think it's a little both. My grandfather in Puerto Rico used to play with different bands, and
Cool.
I think he was on like their local television even one time. And
Wow.
anyways, he was a big musician, and my grandfather on my mother's side as well is also a musician. So like, yeah, I think it runs in the family a little bit. But I'm also guessing maybe it's one of those things where like, let's give him something, you know, productive to try. But I just kind of stuck with that, and that was sort of like my main instrument for a long time growing up.
What did you like? What you're 9 years old. What were you playing at 9?
I want to know this
I've
too.
always I've always been able to like listen to songs like by ear, and so I would just like, I think the first thing I learned how to play was Come As You Are by Nirvana. You know,
Oh, that's
the
wild.
Yeah. Of course.
Thing. So you know,
So
just
you
kind
were
of
listening to a lot of grunge around like your like middle school years, things like that. Yes.
Yeah, I had the radio. Unfortunately, that was my main source of music.
No, I mean, like if they're playing like fun stuff like grunge and like it's that time period, the early '90s. That's kind of fun, you know.
Yeah,
to have
for
that
sure.
main thing.
Yeah, and you know, like I was listening to the Smashing Pumpkins. They were like my favorite band in the world for the longest time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that wasn't a bad time to sort of like be like a kid, you know, and have that be your first musical influence on the radio. You know, it's kind of interesting. I imagine you're probably around the same age as me.
I'm not gonna say specifically my age, but maybe I'll say yes. You know, but yeah, like Siamese Dream was like one of the first records that I heard, and like just album. If you have that as like a benchmark for like production quality, and you like strive for that, like influence like a lot of my sound, and like
Butch Vig production.
Oh yeah, and just like that was a whole thing. But yeah, there's like a few like key albums I think I can narrow it down that like really influence how I make and play and perform music, like and they're kind of like come from different specific worlds of like, you know, I'll just name them. Like Souvlaki from Slow Dive was one of the top albums.
Boy.
Just randomly, like a buddy of mine. The story is we were in a record shop, and this is the truth. I'm not making this up, but like we were just in this random record shop. This is in Florida, in like northwest Florida, and my friend is very like ADD, kind of like very spontaneous, like just does whatever, like, and so he just grabbed like random, like he was like literally walking down the aisle, just picked up a few records or a few CDs and cashed out. And those records were Souvlaki by Slow Dive, Diary by Sunny Day Real Estate, and the
Nice.
the pink LP by Sunny Day Real Estate.
Nice.
So those 3 albums I borrowed from him, and it just like blew my mind, like
Those are
and
some
so
pretty good choices.
just a total
Damn.
like
yeah, you
random
are a little
shit,
bit of a
right?
shoegaze fan.
Wow.
I know you cover that, or you didn't cover. You
Yeah.
remix that Ariel song.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That was a funny story. Well, it's kind
That's
of
a badass story. We can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, shoegaze. I don't know. Like, I totally related to like that. Just I don't know. It was very melancholy, like Souvlaki in particular,
Yes.
to my ears. And it was just like unlike anything I'd ever heard, And it I just kind of went down that rabbit hole, like like as I kind of grew up and just learned about a bunch of different bands like Ariel, like you mentioned, of course My Bloody Valentine, and then there's like some other more like obscure bands, but yeah, and even like with like the music I make as Navigator, I feel like a lot of that kind of bubbles up, in the music to some extent.
Yeah, for sure. Your music has always been very lush.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think it's pretty intentional. Like we were talking about this earlier. Like I feel like I've always been like, I know this is a vaporwave talk show. I feel like I've always been like vaporwave adjacent, but
Yeah.
I tend to like borrow from all sorts of different like genres. And
I would
like,
call you a genre bender.
I appreciate that. I don't know if I do that
It's
well.
definitely a
High
compliment.
compliment.
Yeah,
Take
no,
the
I'll take it.
compliment, my friend. Take the
Absolutely,
compliment.
I'll take it. I just because like I can't. I have trouble just like sitting on one thing. Like I get excited by like footwork, or like R&B, and like I just want to try to like mesh them all together somehow. And that was a big part of what the Infinity mixtape was just
Yeah,
like
you've got like
seeing if
some,
I could do that.
you've got like a juke track early on.
Yeah.
And it's I use it in like bubblegum bass sets all the time. It's so much
nice.
fun.
Oh man, that's cool. I'm trying to think. So, you guys know Chrissy Murderbot? I think he just goes by Chrissy now. He's from Chicago. He did like, I think he did some stuff with Tech Life. DJ Rashad.
I've heard the name.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
I'm blanking on the kind of big hit he had for I'm blanking on the big hit he had, but it was like a classic footwork track, and I actually got to play a show with him down in Florida and in Jacksonville where I lived, and it was it's really cool to kind of like hear like my tracks alongside like the footwork stuff that he was doing, and it's like I don't know, I just love pulling from those types of influences and seeing how I can like
cool as fuck.
adapt them, Yeah, I don't know, it was cool. So
I love
I don't
it.
know. I like I said, I have trouble just like sitting on like one kind of genre. I have to like keep. That could be a whole other hot take. Like people like Dame Funk who are like, funk.
Love Dame
That's
Funk.
like religion, right? Like versus people who like borrow from like funk or whatever. Like is there merit to like people who are like live or die like a certain
It's
sort of
interesting.
genre?
Yeah, people who
Yeah.
do,
That is a
people are
really
very
good
specific
question.
with everything they release. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
people who like move around. I think we've kind of talked about that a little bit about people who sort of have the sound and then just stick with it forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's an interesting concept too. Okay,
Yeah.
so I see where your early influences are coming in. And what's the first thing that you started kind of making on your own that you felt like was yours and that you were going to release it? Like, did you play in a band first, for instance?
I did. I played in bands.
What kind of bands?
Well, when I was in high school, I played in like a kind of a shitty cover band. That we
yeah?
just, like we covered Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer and the typical stuff of like that the time there.
Yes.
And then after that, like I think around the time I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, since we were in such close proximity to Gainesville, Florida, like Gainesville has this like iconic record label called No Idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hot Water Music, Combat Wound Veteran. You
got it.
Oh boy.
You got it. Yeah. So
No Idea
when
was great because they would release vinyl releases, and like they actually would just like it would always be a mix of different colors. Like it would be like 30 on brown, 200 on like light blue. Like they would do whatever was left over for their releases. That's how they had so many different variations. Absolutely, I'm familiar with No Idea.
And a lot of the, I think a lot of those bands use the same guy. I think actually to record those records. McGregor. I'm blanking on his first name, but he recorded like, you know, a lot of my favorites. Like 12 Hour Turn is from Jacksonville. They're like one of my favorite like No Idea bands growing up. Anyways, why did I bring that up?
Around? Is No Idea still around?
I think so. They
No idea.
Cool.
yeah, I think so. I think they are.
Yeah, they put out like they put out like I Hate Myself, which is one of my favorite bands from that era as well.
Yep. So
anyway,
so I bring that up because a lot of those bands would come play in Jacksonville, and I got really influenced by a lot of that music, like the kind of post hardcore, like southern post hardcore like scene, and so like eventually started making music with some friends of mine down there, and we kind of did our own sort of like, again, adjacent version of that, like taking a lot of those influences, and like so we played in that band for a while, and then like the first time that I actually did something that was like solo was after that band sort of broke up, and I started this sort of like, I don't know, weird experimental like indie ambient, like Brian Eno slow dive-esque kind of inspired project called When Tides Collide, and I still kind of write that stuff a little bit today, but like I did that for a long time, and I used sort of like the Kinsella model where I had like a rotating cast of people join the band. Model. Yeah, and
nice.
So like
Joan
of Arc style thing.
Exactly, yeah, I would like rotate like
I co-signed the Kinsella model.
It's a great model. It's very flexible. But yeah, I did that for a long time, and then so like I would say 2009, 2010 is when I don't know where it came from, but like I started just like, I don't know, it was like a switch flipped. I don't know, maybe there's something that happened around that time, but like I started just like really like getting into like electronic music and like the 80s era of electronic music.
A lot of us
I think we all did.
Period. I think there was
chillwave happened, sir.
Something like, I think it was just like exhaustion from like a lot of like typical indie rock, or just even the indie rock.
It was the indie sleaze electro clash bloghouse bullshit.
Yeah, that actually did probably play a bit of a role in making people who were traditionally guitar instrumentalists, indie rock people into moving towards electronic stuff, because you have to understand that like Ed Banger Records had like sort of produced, obviously Justice had come out and Daft Punk was kind of reinvigorated, so like there was this sort of like rock and roll indie sleaze sort of like kind of aesthetic that was kind of like showing like, oh, it's like electronic music but with like a rock and roll attitude. You know what I mean? And we all listened to Justice in like 2006 or whatever. And we're like, huh. And then I think a lot of other things happened. I just sort of made people get a little bit sort of done with
huge recession.
That's true. And people kind of like went inside and like people just played in their bedroom making stuff.
Well, and I think
couldn't afford those big studios to record your album anymore.
Exactly. And like I wonder too if maybe like technology caught up to a certain point, because you had like
yeah, you're right.
Like that was the DAW, like that, because that was the year that I sort of like
when I got Ableton.
Exactly. Like my buddy back in the day was like, you should try Ableton. Like that's what like
it actually started with like, oh, GarageBand is free on my computer. I'm like, oh, this is fun. What's the next step?
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at you getting it on the ground floor.
And of course, like anyone who's ever cracked open Ableton for the first time ever could probably relate to the like, it's a little bit of a daunting experience at first. Yeah. But I kind of stuck with it, I just like, thank God for YouTube, because like even then I think YouTube had like videos that, kind of explained everything that I wanted to do. But the reason I kind of like even started making electronic music, like in cracking open Ableton for that kind of stuff, was I heard Feel It All Around by Washed Out.
Yeah.
And there was that song, and then it was, oddly enough, it was Long Distance by Onra. Those were the two tracks that were
Onra.
Like,
shout out.
Onra.
Vaporwave before there was Vaporwave.
Chinois series is so good. With
Chinois, yeah. Long Distance, though, that was, again, one of those like highly influential albums for me, where I was like, this is what I wanted to hear. Like I want to make music that like has this kind of vibe and makes me feel this way. And so like
just soulful, man.
It's so good. Like that is like a work of art to me. That whole album, start to finish, is perfect in my opinion.
Go back and listen to that album again.
Right.
Oh man, that's so good. So yeah, that's kind of what like, you know, kicked off the interest in like seeing what I could do with electronic music. And you know, of course, like the first attempts at making it were pretty bad, and you know, like just figuring out the software and figuring out like how to, you know, navigate around, no pun intended, like get around the stuff. And like hadn't even, you know, started thinking about like the live part of it yet, until I saw like, you know, when Washed Out and Tori Moi finally blew up, like those guys were just like literally, it was like keyboard stand, laptop.
I remember seeing Toro y Moi back when it was just a keyboard stand. Now he like hacks out
Washed
venues.
Out when it was just a laptop.
Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, wait a second.
Beach house.
Yeah, and it's like, wait a second.
I remember like Active Child, just a laptop keyboard.
So you can get away with it with just this, okay?
Yep.
So then like live shows kind of became a real possibility. But yeah, I think I'm going way beyond your question though.
No. Yeah, I like what it's. No. You're not. This is exactly what I want.
This is the kind of content we crave.
No, keep going. So no, this is exactly actually where I wanted you to go, because you got into what made you want to start using the laptops, what the first artist you heard that made you think this was impossible, what was your first initial influences. So okay, can we just go back to the point where you're like, I'm kind of done with the prototypical band setup for, you know, my music. Okay, so now you have Ableton, and were you using just the software, or had you moved into hardware too, or just the software? What did you start with?
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, so when I was kind of getting started, I was trying to figure out like, all right, how am I gonna make this music? I have Ableton, I know that, like, but I need something more tactile, or I want something more tactile. I know Onra has 2 MPCs that he uses as sort of like almost like 2 turntables almost.
Oh, that's cool as fuck.
But I still want a keyboard or something, because like, you know, like I want to play melodies and stuff. So I found this Akai controller. It was like a combo of like the keybed and the pads. I think it was like the MPK 49 or something, 48 or something like that. So, and it was like, cool, I can do the best of both worlds, you know, like I can play chords and notes and drum out like samples and drum parts that way. So it was definitely more MIDI controller and just Ableton at the start. I don't think I got into like exploring hardware or actual like hardware synthesizers even until like a year or two later maybe. But yeah, it was all started off with soft synths and samples and stuff. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else.
So you figured out kind of what you wanted to sound like. How did you start releasing? You put it on Bandcamp?
You know, well, first of all, like I don't think I knew exactly what I wanted to sound like.
Okay.
It was definitely
that's a hard thing, right?
Well, I still kind of feel like I'm changing a little bit. I have certain elements now that I know, like, okay, I'm gonna reach for this thing, like, and that has maybe kind of become part of a sound for me, if you want to call it that. But that took a while to kind of get there and like understand like when to use those things and like what they would do for the songs. So like initially just starting out is like a lot of experimentation, you know, like I knew that like I love sampling the way it was being done around that time was like really interesting, like and so like the first thing that I ever put out, I think, was it was a small EP called Steady Drift, and that was pretty sample heavy, and it was, I think that was all pretty much written with that kind of setup, that like MPK, Ableton, and that was sort of where like I was just trying to like recreate that vibe that I was telling you about earlier with like once you heard like Honra and like Washed Out and some other like even Tori Moy's first album, like the kind of like warm, hot, like lush kind of vibes or whatever, like and it was just a bastardization of all these effects that Ableton had, and I was just trying to like I was doing it completely wrong, quote unquote wrong, like in terms of production techniques, but it kind of had that sound that I was kind of going for. So it was like kind of warm and fuzzy. And yeah, it was just a product of like being excited by that music at the time and like just trying to recreate a specific kind of vibe. But yeah, like there are songs on there like Girl on the Couch, which ended up being pretty popular. River of Light. I think one of the songs too was picked up by, you remember those guys that would do videos for Comtrues? Like they were these like
Synesthesia Films. Yeah, I remember those guys.
Yes.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah. So
I downloaded like every single song they ever made a video for, like on a spree.
Yeah, they did like a bunch of people. So they did a track off of that EP. I can't even remember the name of the song now, but it was from my first EP, and it was a beautiful video. It was like these surfers. It was like all like warm and fuzzy, and it was just like it was pretty amazing. It was like I think people around that time were just like excited about the same things that I was. I think a lot of people like were
they were. I think it was really fun too, because I think that at that time the internet had was like being used as like an archive for the past. So it was an archive for things that maybe you forgot. Like you could go on Mega Upload and download a zip file that had like all these shoegaze albums from like a certain era, like 19 to 92, important shoegaze albums. Or people had become uploading like just blocks of commercials onto YouTube.
Yeah, like
right?
Tumblr would have GIFs of just like screen grabs.
Tumblr.
Like my
Tumblr
favorite
was super
thing.
important.
Lux was really into that.
For sure. My favorite thing on the internet was like there was like an uploaded performance of like Robin Gibbs doing Another Lonely Night in New York, but it was like on a VHS tape, so it was like totally warped, and I liked it better than the actual version, and I would just watch that all the time. It was very inspiring for like visually and audio and audioly. And, was it audially? Auditorily? How do you say it? How is it? Auditorially?
Audibly.
What's the audio version of visually? Anyway, the point is that the internet was big archive for everything, and that's what people were using the internet for kind of back then was, to look back and to look at the things that maybe you forgot or things that you thought were a dream, and then you found out they were real. You know what I mean? Or to look at different versions of nostalgia. Like this nostalgia you missed out on. You know what I mean? It was really fun to watch like bumpers for like the fucking news station in Nebraska and like Omaha. Like that was just fun to look at what their news bumpers look like. You could experience different paths of nostalgia that were otherwise closed off to you prior. And I really loved the internet back then. And that's why we started making the music. It's a little bit more bedroomy, a little bit more gauzy. That's why Synesthesia Films could make that really cool music video for you.
Yeah.
And then Tumblr on top of that, which was just so visually stimulating. You just scroll through that all day.
For us back in the day.
Bandcamp was new. SoundCloud was new.
Yeah. I lament the internet. I lament that internet. Like I miss it because the internet today is not like that. It's now about content creation. It's now about like how much you can create and how quickly you can do it. And it's soon going to be AI, which is just like we're not going to look back as much as we're going to look at what else can be made and how quickly can it be made. It's more about too much. It's all new now, and I think that we don't use the internet to look back as much. It's just sad. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think you nailed it. Like, there's the nostalgia component was like a huge part of it. But to your point, it was like
for sure.
It was not only stuff that was like, in my opinion, not just stuff
sonically. Thanks, Lux. Sonically.
Yeah, sonically.
All right. Sonically. Thanks.
Leave it to Lux. Not just stuff that was like, maybe like closed off from us, but like, for me, anyways, it was like stuff that like. I have vague recollections of like not even liking back then for whatever reason. Like I remember thinking a lot of 80s music was like, I don't like this. Like when I was growing up,
Man, me too. I thought it was corny and smooth jazz too. I was like, this is the worst music ever. How the turntables.
Oh my God. My dad used to listen to, it was like, I think it was called Watercolors. That was the name of the radio station. And it was all smooth jazz. I used to hate it growing up. and same with the 80s music. But then like for whatever reason, like you reconnect with it, or a lot of us reconnected with that kind of stuff like around that time. Maybe it was like we all seemed like to be like maybe similar ages, so then maybe it just hit at a certain point in our lives where it just like clicked in our brains or something. But like it seemed to be like this collective clicking of like people around the world who were like, oh shit, there's actually really like beautiful things about these old like things from that era, you know, like the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, you know, like I feel like nowadays like the early 90s have become that kind of 80s era almost.
Dude, we're coming up on 2000s nostalgia.
I know.
I mean, all and it was fun to look back at that. It was a little bit eerie too, because it was kind of worn out and strange to look back at it through that lens, because it was a little bit like melted. You know,
why was it so comforting?
I mean, today, like,
there's
like
I remember when I first heard the "Nobody Here" clip, and I was just like, "Oh my god!"
So that was really cool. Yeah. And today, what I don't like is that sort of creepy, eerie feeling. It's all so manufactured now. Like people just like post like a picture of a liminal space and like a video of them going through it with like some fucking stupid like stock music behind it, and it's like clearly like you're just faking this analog shit. It just doesn't have the same sincerity anymore. It's all fucking manufactured.
It's been co-opted.
But it was real then. Sure. It was real when you look back at the. If you look at
because it was new for it felt new even though it was familiar, and it was the process of recontextualizing it turned it into something completely new.
Yeah,
that
well said.
You know, like hadn't we didn't have that sort of like. I think there was a lot of things that played into it. There was like the availability of certain types of content, like you mentioned, like the news, like the weather station reports, or like those old like VHS footage like that started being uploaded to YouTube, and slowly you had more access to like retrieve those things that were previously archived, and like, oh wow, like creates this new sense of inspiration that you want to just like act upon. And so like I feel like that's where a lot of like vaporwave came from, was just taking that and just recontextualizing that into like something completely different. And I don't know, in my mind, and this is a hot take, but like I feel like it started with like those echo jams that Daniel Lopatin made,
right?
Followed by the second time I heard the term vaporwave was when Vectroid, when she was making those echo jams. Do you remember when she was putting those out?
I don't think I heard the echo jams. I remember like her early albums and such.
She had put out some echo jams at a certain point in time.
She does retract a lot of stuff that she puts out, so I probably just wasn't at the right place to see or hear those. I remember she flipped Nobody Here, and she flipped the entertainment scenario number 8 or whatever it was called.
Right.
The what's his name, Roger something. Yeah, that's a beautiful song too.
Chuck Persons?
Emotions. No, she flipped. You remember how? It was Chuck Person, and he did End of Death scenario, and it was that Emotions song.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, Telnet Erotica. Thanks, Lux.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably. I know there's other people who probably did stuff before them, but that was like my first time hearing vaporwave. Like these are vaporwave like echo jams that are being made, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. And then at some point, like vaporwave became a term, became a thing.
You've got a buddy in chat. They brought up Bill Wave. I remember asking you about that years ago.
There was
101K.
Tugboat. Yeah, Tugboat. Josh? I just outed his real name. You guys remember Turntable FM?
Yeah, buddy. It's actually come back
a little bit. Yeah. Back in the day, we used to like have a small room where we would go, and a few friends of mine and I would just go hang out. And there was one guy who his dad's name was Bill. This is a dumb story, but I'm gonna tell it anyways. But like, his dad's name was Bill, and we used to joke about his dad and say like just name things after Bill, and so like, hey, we should start a genre called Bill Wave, and so like kind of stuck, and I used it as a joke to like promote songs and stuff. It was a complete joke genre, joke name. and it was sort of like at the time it felt like there were like a billion different subcategories of like chillwave or like the electronic kind of movement that was
has
happening.
it gotten
You know,
better?
No. There's so many different variations of it, and it was just sort of like a lighthearted kind of
Lo-fi.
yeah.
I remember seeing
but
the tags on SoundCloud and messaging you, be like, "What is
what is
Billwave?"
that? Stupid inside joke. Stupid inside joke. Yeah.
Oh man, boy, you ain't kidding about the genres though.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to talk about. I have a hard time like describing my own music, and
Yeah.
maybe it's easy for people to say, "Oh no, you do this," but I have a hard time doing
Well,
that.
especially if you want to like categorize the Navigator journey, because you're right, you did do a lot of sample flipping early on, and I think your most recent album, I don't think there's a single sample on it. If there is, I'm not familiar. I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
You know,
If there are samples, it's probably they've been sourced from
they're really well hidden.
my own yeah. Man, sampling's tough. I love to sample. I started to struggle with it with this might sound lame, but like sort of like the sample clearance aspect of it, and like how I can like I started to feel weird about like posting music with like overt samples, like "Girl on the Couch." That's a Mary J. Blige flip, and I would feel a little bit weird charging money for that, which I know is not a popular opinion in the vaporwave community, which is largely grounded in sampling, like, you know,
Young
very
Bay
popular
has
tracks.
entered the chat.
and I'm not. By the way, I more power to people who want to sample and like and put it out. Like I still put that music out. You know, like I'll put it out for free. Like if you like it, you just want to enjoy it. Like go check it out. Like you know, if DJs can post their entire sets on SoundCloud or Mixcloud or wherever, like for free, then I feel like I should be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, facts.
But like I don't know, like it got to a point where I was like, I was trying to like spread more of my music and get it on more platforms, and like I felt weird about like I just kind of started to feel weird about like trying to like sell music with like samples that were like not cleared. And then the other side of it was like I wanted to try to like challenge myself to like not rely on it as much, just to see what I could do to like push the music like just through like my own musicianship or like what I could, you know, produce myself. So I don't know. It's sort of it's a weird answer to give you, like in terms of like why I was so sample heavy in the beginning and not so much these days. But like I don't know. It's a weird kind of thing that I struggle with. And you know I've you know, you read stuff about people getting like sued all the time for like not clearing their samples. But hey, you know, like Clams Casino just uploaded that one album to Spotify. I think
Shout
he
out
finally got
Clams
clearance
Casino.
from.
I just saw Clams Casino live in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah,
Clean.
how is he live?
Fucking phenomenal. It was
Really?
it was at Elsewhere Space in the outdoor stage at Elsewhere Space, and there was like it just started to drizzle a little bit too, and so it's just like
beautiful.
smoke and lights, and just like
Ooh.
Rainforest song kicks on, and it's like
Oh.
this is fucking. It was
What
on a
did
big.
he-
It was on a big
You're speaking
speaker
my
too.
language.
Fucking
Yeah.
religious experience, honestly.
I love
I'd
that
seen it live
EP.
one other time before that, like 4 years ago, and it was like not. It was a smaller stage in some like smaller festival, and it was like in the morning. But this was great on those speakers. That was insane.
Did he? I remember seeing like a clip of him performing. Excuse me, like I forget what it was, but like all he was using was an iPad to perform. Did he? Was it
Oh,
a
that's
similar
fucking
thing?
cool.
I think that's what he was performing the first time I saw him. That's what I think he had.
That's
But this,
hilarious.
no, he had
That's
a little thing.
amazing,
I don't know.
too.
He had a little setup this time.
Okay. I mean, that just goes to show, though, like,
Yeah,
you know,
people
you
just
could
want to hear the music that they like loud. That's it.
It was
Yes.
just like great on the speakers. Then they had like the smoke machines and the lasers coming.
I
down.
hope
that
they
made the
used a
show,
fuck
right?
ton
I
of
don't know,
smoke
but then
for
like
that.
at nighttime with the rain, sort of not too much rain, but just a little bit drizzling down, and it was like hot outside, so the rain was nice. This is like a fucking phenomenal
That's
experience. This
perfect.
was like about like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I saw him. I
Oh,
drove down
jealous.
to Brooklyn, like specifically. I think there was some other art. I think like what's her name was some of the other people were playing that were of some note, but I didn't give a fuck. I came to see Clams Casino, drove there, drove back
Yeah.
after.
Wow, you didn't even stay the night. Damn.
Fuck
Man.
no, man! It's still like 2 hours away. I would
That's true.
fucking drive several more hours to go see Clams Casino on a
Man.
big
Wow.
speaker. Absolutely.
I missed my chance to see him in Colorado when I lived in North Texas, and I really wish I hadn't.
Man, that
Shame.
reminds me of when I
You might
saw.
do more live. You might do more live stuff now because that was like
Yeah,
people were
good
very
point.
excited to see him.
Yeah, reminds me of seeing Slow Dive in Chicago. Like,
Oh,
I think
man.
it was when they first got back together. It was at the Pitchfork Festival.
Yeah. I think
And
Sky
it was
Ferreira
just-
was also playing at that thing too. But
I think
came
so.
to-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just a beautiful time of day. Like the sun was starting to set, and they were like, they what's the name of the song they always end with? It's Golden something.
Oh yeah, isn't it just Golden?
Golden sun, yeah, something like that. But they started playing that song, and the sun was starting to come down. It was just like,
Oh
yes, semi-religious experience.
Golden
as
Hair,
well.
isn't it? Or
Let,
yeah,
yeah,
something
it
like
was-
that.
Yeah,
every time
I'm
I
a
close
terrible
out of this,
Slow Dive fan.
yeah, dude, I'm man. If I could just see She Calls played live, I would probably die.
Mhm.
Lux says, Lux just researched it. It is Golden Hair.
That's yeah.
I remembered
Golden Hair.
something correct for once. Wonder of wonders.
Yeah, man, but yeah. Where are we going with all? Man,
I mean, I can ask some more questions.
Yeah,
if
let me
you're
grab
really
another
done there.
drink. Get another good
All
one
right,
in
well,
before we
then
turn
let
it
me
over to
ask
the
you,
chat.
I mean, so we've been talking about vaporwave. We've been talking about what it means and how we're interpreting it. But I'd like to know exactly how you first discovered it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think my first recollection of hearing the term vaporwave was in a turntable room, and I think a friend was like,
interesting.
"Yeah, Vectroid just put out these Echo Jams," and
A lot
People
of
are
people
pe-
met each other through those turntable groups. You know.
yeah, I mean, I know it's come back. I don't know. I've been to it a few times since they've revitalized turntable, but like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel
Wait.
quite.
No, and it was a little bit different back then in like the early 2010s because I believe this would be like one of the first times that people were kind of creating music, putting it on Bandcamp,
Yeah.
and then meeting each other in either Turntable FM or
Yep.
posting in similar Facebook groups or whatever and saying, "Hey, who are you? Nice to meet
Yeah.
you." And then friending you know, that's the first time I really ever had strangers friending me on Facebook. Right?
Right.
That's the first
Yeah,
time like
yeah.
I've ever had that happen or like people from like and then getting sort of put onto compilations. Obviously you were
Mhm.
following Mr. Nonsense at that chillwave glo-fi hypnagogic pop Facebook group maybe
Yep.
and all that and like that is the guy I remember. I think that's the first person that actually started grouping everyone together, grouping
Really?
people together as like yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right.
because like Symposium Volume 1, you're on that, but so is like St. Pepsi, so is like
Yeah.
George Clanton, so is like fucking Young Bay, so is like a whole bunch of other people actually.
Wow. Yeah.
So like that, everyone was submitting music videos for him to post.
yeah.
All the same people apparently, like you
Yeah.
know what I mean. And I credit that with starting the logarithm. That's just
Yeah.
my theory.
Yeah,
I credit him with starting
Y'all
the
fools
logarithm.
talking
for
about
all this shit.
Symposium Volume 1.
Yeah, it was just saying like it was one thing like like people would meet each other in the turntable groups or people would be sending their music to the same people to post.
Yeah.
And
Or on Facebook.
Well, because you could also it had that SoundCloud integration, and you could just like upload something really quick to SoundCloud and then just pipe it into turntable like really quick. People were
Yeah,
doing
those
listening
days
parties,
have
like-
come and gone.
I know, but
Well,
I
that's
remember
what-
I did a whole listening party for that 2020 EP that I put out back in the day. That was like the most people that I've ever seen like actively listening to my music, like that I had evidence.
Oh
for
god, that
seeing,
EP
you
was so
know?
good. I really liked that.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Yeah,
I'm just looking
I've
at
been
the
banging
Symposium
that Hunger
Volume
and
1
Thirst
thing.
song, obviously, because it's like one of the only ones you could find on Insta. But it also happens to be
yeah.
one of my favorites. So
2020 is it's a good example. It's like, man, there's a ton of samples on that EP that
you're
there's
talking about the 2020 EP. I'm an idiot.
Oh no, you're talking about Cherish. Gotcha.
Yeah, did that not come out
Um,
around 2020? Maybe it was a little earlier. I just got confused because you have an EP called 2020.
Yeah.
My bad.
No. I don't remember off the top of my. I think maybe
It's
it
all
did.
good. It'll come
I
to
think
me.
it did. I think it did actually. Cherish came out. Man, that's an example of like where I just tried something different. Like
Yeah,
I
that was a
listening to
huge
lot
like up. I
departure,
don't want to say
right?
upgrade. I wouldn't call it an upgrade, but I wouldn't call it a downgrade. Just like it was an evolution. There we go.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, like you try things and you're like, I try to like, tell stories as much as possible with, as corny as that sounds, I do try to like have some underlying theme or story for each record. Like Surface has a story,
Yeah.
a through line. Cherish has a story and a through line. Same with Direction, the most recent album. And yeah, that one was just like Cherish in particular was like, just like based off of like just some experiences that I had recently, and then it was like I don't know, trying to translate that into like music, these emotions or whatever. It's kind of like the guy that did the artwork, his name's Milton. He did the video for oh my god, he was on Software, that record label.
Oh, nice.
The Thug and Chancer. You guys know Thug and Chancer?
Okay, I'm familiar with the name.
look
Not,
it
I
up
haven't
now.
heard their work.
Yeah. I forgot the name of the video, but anyways, he did the music video for Thug and Chancer for one of his songs, and so he did the artwork for Cherish. I remember telling him, like, I was describing what the record was about and kind of and I described it as like sort of like dark and depressing, and he was like, I don't see it as dark, it seems more melancholy. So like, and I get
It's
that.
emotional.
Yeah.
It's
But
moving.
well, I mean, I it's definitely touching on some like melancholy themes, I guess, and
Yeah.
so like, so there's that, and then I think I just moved to Atlanta, like, or not just had moved to Atlanta, but like I'd only been in Atlanta for a short amount of time, and still kind of like I was listening to a lot of the music that was happening in the city. There's like a lot of like R&B type of stuff happening, and then, like future R&B stuff that was happening, like it just around that time of like writing it, and so that impacted me a lot. It was like, it was one of those things where it's like an experiment almost. Like, this is like a snapshot in time for like what I was going through, and maybe it sounds a little bit different than what I've done before, but I'm gonna put it out, try it anyways, and it is what it is, kind of a thing. So for better or worse, like that's kind of how I treat music now these days. Like it's more of like, what story am I trying to tell, and like what's sort of the snapshot in time that I'm trying to capture here. And maybe it produces like good vibes, and maybe like not so interesting vibes, but it is what it is.
Do you do your own vocals?
Yes.
Nice.
Heavily processed.
You do, you do a lot of like
Nice.
pitch shifting, like
Yes.
like Triangle Records type like sound.
Yeah.
And it's very
Triangle
it's
Records sound. That's interesting.
it's
Yeah.
kind of sad
Yeah.
sounding, but maybe that's too simple of an adjective to describe it. But to many people, it's kind of like really sensual. Like our last episode, we talked about Lapalux a lot, how it's like sexy but also sad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I can see that.
And I like
Yeah.
that, man.
Yeah, that I think Cherish was, on that EP in particular, I was experimenting with my vocals a lot, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm a huge like Ford and Lopatin fan.
Yeah.
Love Ford and
love
Lopatin.
games.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But you said Ford and Lopatin before you said games. I'd like that
Love
noted
both.
in the chat.
That was a big
Before-
inspiration for me.
Oh, huge. And I mean, like, Strawberry Skies was maybe the third song that I should add to
Yeah.
that list of like, oh my god, this is incredible. But Joel, his vocal style actually is very distinct, and it was a big inspiration
Yeah.
for like how I treated my vocals for that Cherish record. It's kind of like a weird, it's almost like he's got like a formant filter, and it's on the low end of the formant filter, and it's like really deep. Almost like there's an octave below thing happening or something. So
Yeah, it does sound like that.
I love it. It's so cool.
He
And
hits
like
some
I
pretty
would-
high notes too, like in the
Yeah.
Airbird and I think he was in that
Oh,
band
yeah.
Tiger City.
Yep. That was. I think he played bass in that band. Trivia. At the last job I was at, Joel was my coworker for a brief period of time.
No way.
Whoa,
That's cool.
fucking nuts.
Yeah.
He seems like a cool dude.
Yeah, he's super nice. And it was funny, like they were introducing him like at a company all hands, and I was like, too much media in the chat. And
No way.
I don't know if he appreciated that so much, but it was
Excuse
it was
me.
funny. But yeah, so I do my own vocals and heavily processed because I'm very insecure with how I sing. So it always has to be matched with something. I'd love to work with like vocalists.
That's
fair. I'd love to collaborate with some actual like good singers at some point,
Damn.
or just any other singers besides myself. So, if anyone's out there and interested,
Yeah, you heard it on Hot Takes. You could be the next big collaborator with Navigator. We're on into the second hour of the broadcast, and I want to go
Let
ahead
me
and
just
open
ask-
it up to
Yeah,
the
and let me-
chat after Skelly's final question.
Just wanted to ask about some of the hardware that you're using now. What do you like?
yeah. So these days I'm using a mix of analog and digital gear.
Can you walk us through some of the cool stuff, like some of your favorite pieces?
Yeah, and so I'm in my office right now. I have another room that's full. That's like my studio. It's like full of gear. So I was hoping to get the audio setup working in there so I could show you stuff. But I think some of the key pieces that I use, controller wise, I use push, and then I have like Native Instruments keyboard just for like when I want to switch to like actual keys.
Yeah.
I've had different synths over the years, like. Like I had a Moog Prodigy that I used heavily in the earlier records. I used a Novation Base Station 2 pretty heavily. That's actually like my workhorse synth for the live shows.
Okay.
And so I use that for all the leads that I play in a lot of songs. It's super awesome for like really cool momentary like arpeggios or sequences. So like if I just want to like enable the latch and play like a cool sequence live, I can do that with a song, and it's like amazing. It works. It's really flexible. So I use that a lot. I have a DX7 that's haven't been using that as much. I use it a lot in the earlier records, like especially on Surface. I use the DX7 a lot on that.
Oh, I love that album so much.
Oh, thanks, man. What else? One of the other workhorses in my studio is Ensoniq SQ80. There's this like
I have
one
an
of those.
SQ. I have an SQ80.
Nice. So you know
you
what's
like
up
it?
with that. I do like it. It's one of those synths where like I tend to ignore it, and then when I decide to go back to it and like pay it some attention, like I'm constantly surprised by the depth that it has, like how the sounds you can get out of it. It's pretty amazing, actually. Like you can get some really like huge sounds out of it. I mainly use it for like I have these like synth bell sounds on it that I really love, and I use I use them for these little accents in my songs.
Nice.
What else? I mean, yeah, the rest of the stuff I use like in the box, like digital wise. Ableton, of course. I kind of make my own drum kits, and just process them pretty heavily. I love the Roland Boutique plugins. I use the Juno 160. The what's the bass synth? It's not the SH plugin.
101.
Yeah, man, that thing sounds amazing. I gotta say, like, there's in terms of like sounding as close to the real thing as possible, those things are pretty close. The Roland plugins. So I've been using those a lot lately. And yeah, just like a lot of like other sampled stuff. Sample different like instruments and just different sounds that I kind of collect. Oh, and then yeah, I've been getting into hardware a little bit. I have this Akai MPC-1. I've been getting into the Electron stuff, like the Digitact, the Digitone, got the Rhythm, been getting into modular. A lot of that's
modular.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
yeah. Beware,
Uh-oh.
like if you're
That-
thinking about
that's-
getting
that's-
into it.
That's
Yeah,
what
beware of that
Lapalux
one.
did.
Yeah, it's
That'll consume your time.
once you start, you're in. You know, you're sucked in.
Uh-oh.
So that's where I'm at.
Damn.
Yeah.
It looks
So-
overwhelming, but really cool.
It is. I mean, the best way it was explained to me was like, sort of like, you know, if you're familiar with guitar pedals and how you patch them up, it's kind of similar to that.
Right.
So
Damn.
yeah, but a lot of this gear, you know, like, I have yet to like, really like bake into my writing process. So
You actually use the modular stuff in some songs.
not yet. Not yet.
All right.
It's coming.
You know, I'm determined.
I have like yet to meet anybody who's really into like modular synths that like actually like makes music with it.
Well,
Just
you
do
know
a
what's
bunch of
re-
noodling.
What's really interesting with modular, I won't go too deep into modular, but like the one thing I will say with like the beauty of modular is that it can actually be very therapeutic and very
Interesting.
very
Expensive.
yeah, just
Yeah,
yes,
time
yeah.
consuming.
It can be, but in a good way
Geeky.
though. But the therapy part
Pointless.
is the therapy part for me is I can create a patch, I can get a sound going, and spend time and be methodical.
Yeah.
Not have to look at a computer screen, not have to look at anything
That's nice.
else. Like,
Yeah.
and then when I have this thing created, like it's gone. Like I unplug everything, it's gone. You know, and it's just like
The sandcastle.
oh just
wow. Yeah.
being in the moment, being like sort of forces you to be sort of like present and
That's good. I like that.
and so like even if you don't use it for your tracks, and I'm still determined to
You
Bake that
will.
in.
I know you will because you are
Yeah.
because you have a bunch. You make music already, so you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
God damn it, I'm going to use this thing.
exactly.
Bewilder Beast used to use it too in his music, and Bewilder Beast
yeah.
made my favorite
Yeah,
music ever.
shout out.
So he used to do them too.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, that guy Thug and Trancer that I mentioned earlier on software, like he would play live shows with just a modular rig.
That's fucking nuts.
Mm.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
I'm going to check him out.
Yeah.
I definitely
awesome.
going to check him out as well.
We've
Yeah.
got a big back catalog of questions from the chat, guys. So if you don't mind, I'm going to get a few of those out of the way. The first question we got actually was really, really early on. A good friend of the show, Patch Notes, wants to know, what are your top 3 washed out songs?
Ooh. I'm gonna try to narrow them down. I mean, Feel It All Around would be like one of
Right.
the top ones. You know what? There's a really good song on the last album he did. Like a duet with his wife or whatever. It was really pretty. It's that album where he's like, it looks like he's in Greece or something. It's like a purple cover. I forget the name of it. There's a song up there that I really love that I would put up there. And then what's that second track on the Washed Out album? Or not the second track, maybe it's the third one. Dun, dun.
Yep, that's the one I'm thinking. Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, that one. That's up
Doo-doo-doo.
there.
Yeah, what's it called? It's
Yeah.
good, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Washed Out actually did a couple of pretty good remixes. I want to say he remixed the Small Black, the very first Despicable Dogs, their first single. I think he remixed that.
Mm.
And then, of course, Toro y Moi flipped Feel It All Around and did just a really beautiful, like, kind of Vespertine
Yeah.
version of it.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so probably not the most interesting answers for me, but like, I don't know, those are the ones that still hit pretty hard. So
I'm surprised
say
Lux
those.
hasn't told us what that one song is called yet.
Oh, I'm sure
That's
it's coming.
hey, good answers. Patch Notes. He said Purple Noon.
Yeah,
Maybe that was Purple Noon. Thank you.
yeah.
Great question, Patch Notes.
Yeah.
Make Mistakes wants
Thank
to know. Actually, they were going to ask everyone, which I assume would mean you, Skelly, and anyone in chat. Do you have a favorite sample that you like to use?
Ooh, I kind of do. It's a drum sample.
Yeah.
So,
Is it the
I don't know
Amen break?
no. but it may as well be for how often I use it. This is gonna sound maybe a little lame, but it's a single one shot, and it comes from this. I don't know where I found it. Some obscure page, some site somewhere, and it had all these like Akai drum machine samples, like from like their EEPROM cards or whatever. Like they have like the the typical ones like the 707, the 808, and those drum machines. And then they have the earlier ones, whose names I'm blanking on. But it was like it's a zip file of just like tons of sample packs from those different like drum machines like from back in the day. And there's this one that I use in like a ton of like almost like maybe 90% of my songs.
Oh really?
It's like it's actually it's a hand clap, and I think it's just labeled like crack, and you can tune it so like it sounds like a long snare, like an 80s snare, like a kind of thing. And I'm
gonna have to listen for that.
Yeah, so anytime you hear like, I'll use it for like dramatic effect for certain parts. So like in like a loop, it'll be going, and then I'll use it like maybe in the middle of the loop, and it'll just go, for like
oh damn,
just like a nice like dramatic effect.
Just like hits. You have one song. Actually, I think it might be the one from the Portals mixtape. And at the end, there's two claps, and it's like clap, and then the next clap is like an octave lower. Clap. And I'm like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's probably not. Probably has nothing to do with what you just discussed, but
no. It might be the same. It might even be the same sample, because I've definitely done that. There's like the shorter claps that have like the shorter reverb gate on it, and then there's the long one, which I usually call like. I just label it thunderclap in the
that works
in the session, and it's just like makes like a nice long.
It's like a clop
reverb tail. Yeah, so
clap,
that one
clop.
I use. Yeah, I use that one like 90% of the time.
Man, I'm gonna have to start listening for this drum sound so I can see if I can find it.
Yeah, you'll probably recognize it pretty quick.
We have a super fan in chat, and her name is Luxury Elite. She has 3 questions. We're gonna do one at a time. Yeah, we're all big fans of Lux around here. First question: what was your favorite song to bust out on turntable back in the day?
Ooh, damn, that's a tough one.
Right.
Man, that's a tough one. That's a good question. Man. I mean, obviously, I rotated through those like first 3 jams that I mentioned,
the washed out songs.
Maybe MIDI Drift. That was like I would always play that song on turntable.
That sounds
great. From games. Like I mean, such a classic.
It is.
But yeah, I'm struggling to think of one in particular that I would just play more often than those. So I'm gonna say MIDI Drift.
If I can interject, I found at one point you did some sort of guest mix for somebody, and it had a bunch of like neo R&B and like PB R&B type like stuff in it that was real good. And you may not remember this, but like 2 or 3 years ago, Skelly and I were both actually part of a live stream event, and Lux actually. They did it as Lipstick Elite, and I was like, hey, come attend this live stream event. I'm playing some songs that I found because of you.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I mean, that doesn't answer the question, but like I could show you.
Was it Drifts, maybe?
It was,
I can't remember.
No, but when I find the tracks, I will send them to you, and you'll, I don't remember where I found this guest mix, but you'll probably be like, oh, damn, wow. Like, I remember that song or whatever.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to.
Yeah, just good stuff. Yeah, I'll do that right after the broadcast.
Awesome,
but Lux's next question was, what was your favorite Moogfest memory?
Oh, Pearl Drifts. Yeah, shout out. I remember Drifts. This was like one of the first people to post.
Yeah.
Shout out Drifts.
It may have been Drifts. Yeah. So sorry, Melissa.
No,
Lux's
you're fine.
Question was favorite Moogfest moment.
Yeah, or like memory.
Man, so the one I went to was, I think it was the for me it was like the Moogfest to end all Moogfest. It was like Ford and LePatin were there, like Gold Panda was there.
Oh
what?
Man,
Ford and LePatin was live?
Yes, Baths was there live.
Oh man.
I mean, it was like the chillwave event.
Oh, that's great.
Like,
what was this, like 2015?
This was 2011, I think, maybe.
What?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Brian Eno was there. M83 Subtract.
Whoa.
Oh my god, so many. Like, I was like, of course, front and center for Ford LaPatin.
Yeah.
I saved his beer because he almost knocked it over, or Joel's beer.
Damn.
That maybe was the moment, like saving Joel Ford's beard from falling over in the middle of their set
Unreal.
and just placing it on the
Dousing
ground
his
gently.
equipment or something.
Yeah, exactly. But that was amazing. Honorable mention though, Eamon Tobin at that
Yeah.
Moog Fest event, the cubes. I think you mentioned this earlier, Scally. Like, unbelievable. Like, I've never felt so much like rhythmic vibration like in my like chest cavity before. Like,
awesome.
it was weird. It was a weird sensation. But it was visually just incredible. It was amazing. So
Very
I would say
cool.
those two. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Neon Indian in chat. Do you remember during the Era Extraordinaire tour, he had like that huge like gadget on stage, like some sort of gizmo that like
Yeah.
I couldn't even. Hopefully, I can find photos of it and show you later.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah,
like
it doesn't ring a bell.
like 2012 or something. I don't know what it was.
Huh. No,
it was.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was just a stage prop.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Lux's third question, and keep them coming in chat, guys. Lux's third question was, going back in time again a bit, what were your favorite blogs to follow?
Tiananmen Square Dance.
Oh, wow. Oh, you're too kind. You are one of the few artists that I got an exclusive track from. Thank you again for that.
Of course. What were some Portals? I think that might be
Portals. Yep.
Yep.
how I got in touch with them. I feel like there was another one that I was really into. Man, I used to go to ISO 50 every day.
I was really hoping you were about to say it, like Scott Hansen's Tycho blog. Honestly,
Yes,
bud, that's
yeah.
how I found 18 Karat Affair, and thus you and Chris and
that's how I found Mood Gadget and Jacob's label and like all the amazing like acts on that label, like Jacob 2-2.
We need to get him on the show at some point.
Yeah, he would be great to talk to.
I feel like he'll just rant the entire 2 hours. He'd probably be a great guest, actually.
Oh yeah, you should definitely have him on. But yeah, so ISO 50. There may have been some other ones, but I think those are like probably the big ones.
Chris, I'm gonna go back before I start firing from the hip. Somebody in chat actually asked a question that they wanted like everyone to answer, and I don't make music, so they wanted to know if you had a favorite. I mean, you don't really make a lot of sample-based music, but they wanted to know if you had like a favorite sample you like to use.
Oh, I do use samples in my music quite often. A favorite sample I like to use. I've been on my next album. I definitely sample a lot of vocals, and I kind of fuck with them. And I really like Selena Gomez vocals.
Oh, that's interesting.
They just sound really good when you warp them.
Yeah.
Those polished
like samples, but specifically the vocals. Yeah.
Those polished like top charted like pop singers, like
I was really good when I pitch your voice down.
Exactly. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, keep them coming, guys. Until we get some more questions, I want to know if you have on a more broader scale, like if you have any favorite music-related memories going through your entire life.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I've never done any like extensive touring. I've done little stretches here and there of like for like a week or so, like more regional kind of like shows. But I remember my buddy Data Diamond and I did a short tour.
Yeah.
I think I was talking about this a little bit before we started, but that was a really fun time because we had like there's a lot of like interesting moments on that tour, and then there was some highs and lows, but it's always so much fun to like play a series of shows, like go on tour when you can, and just like play for people. That's one thing I'm you know, like I want to play more shows. I need to put out more music, but I would say that tour in particular was a fun one because that was like around the time that I think Cherish may have been put out, or maybe it was before that. I can't remember. But we went to like, you know, some cities that we'd never gone to for the first time, which was super fun. And yeah, it's just like you have just like, you know, these kind of like random experiences. Like we played this we played this house show that was it was a little sketch, and then at the very end they like force fed us some stew. We were like, we were
Stew?
stew. There's like
Stew?
Just got done
made the
playing a
stew.
hot, sweaty show. I want some stew.
Yeah, I want hot water with that stuff in it. And,
Broth, with thick broth.
yeah, and it was like we were trying to like do our best to get out of that house and like leave, and they like stopped us and they're like, "Here, eat some of this," and it was literally like force fed us the stew that they had, and we're both like total like hypochondriacs and like super OCD, and we were freaking out afterwards. Like,
Oh my god.
whoa, oh my god, what was in it? Like, we were total nerds about it. But I don't know, we had stupid memories like that. So like I love like going on tour and having those like weird experiences. So
Oh
that was the most
damn.
recent one that comes to mind. Yeah. No.
We got a good question in chat from Make Mistakes. What gear of yours gets the least use, but you'll never part with it?
Probably the DX7.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Damn.
I hate to
I knew
say
you were
it,
gonna
man.
say the DX7.
I hate to say it. I love it, but I don't really reach for it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Poor
I also
DX7.
don't want to get rid of it. I don't know. It's one of my first
understand.
like hardware synths that I ever bought, you know. And I got it
Yeah.
for like $120.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
If you had a DeLorean and a flux capacitor, what year would you travel back or forward to, and why?
Oh man. I mean, it's so cliche to just say somewhere in the 80s just because I'm, you know, like, I don't know, like that feels like a cliche answer. And honestly, the 80s weren't all great. Also, like there's a lot of bad things going
Yeah.
on during the 80s, but it would have been cool to like, I don't know, see like some of the scenes that were starting around then. Like it'd be cool to see how gritty New York was in the 80s.
I was thinking the same
Yeah,
thing. Actually,
yeah.
The
or like the
punk scene,
70s.
the art scene, like
Yeah.
that. Like I feel like there's just like this vibe that New York had back then that was
Yeah.
very kind of iconic. That would have been interesting to kind of experience. Yeah, I don't know, probably somewhere like that or sometime like that. Not really looking forward to the future too much. Like I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not too
Hottest
optimistic
summer
about-
on record.
Yeah. So probably would just probably go backwards. Probably go backwards and end up regretting it. Like healthcare is not as
Right.
great. Like, you know, like social situations are not that great. So I don't know. Feel like you're kind of hosed either way to
Right.
some extent.
I think
So.
Data Diamond might be in chat. I'm not sure, but I feel like I'm putting two and
What's
two
up?
together. Maybe they this user wanted to, oh hello wants to know, did anyone ever tell you I
That's
like
him.
your techno? And I had to respond. I was like, oh my god, normies love to call electronic music techno or dance
Okay.
or
So there's
beats.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's a little story behind that.
Let's hear the story.
I mean, it's nothing crazy, but actually, because of this, like, I thought about even like making shirts.
Man.
that had this phrase on it. So if anyone is interested, if anyone would buy a shirt that says "I like your techno," I will make them. Yeah, so I used to live in Jacksonville, Florida, as did Data Diamond, and I was playing a show one night, and I think it was during like the 2020 era, like the EP, the 2020 EP era.
Thanks
my
for
music
clarifying.
making, yeah. And so I was playing like songs from that set, from that EP. Nothing like techno, right?
Right.
And just kind of hanging out in front, and these two girls walked by, and I guess they'd been watching, and one of them was just like, "Hey, I liked your techno." And
That's
I was
great.
like, what else could you say? Just thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Right.
night.
Absolutely.
So yeah, ever since then, that's just kind of been like a little inside joke that I'm still trying to figure out how to monetize.
Monetize the techno.
Yeah.
So we discussed a lot of hardware. And you discussed your journey with Ableton. Would you say Ableton is your favorite DAW, or do you have any others that you like more than that?
I'll say Ableton is the DAW that I'm most comfortable with. I mean, there are other great DAWs. Like Logic is great. Honestly, like, if anyone's listening and they're thinking about getting into music, or they're just starting out, my advice always is like, find whatever makes sense to you to start with and just stick with it. So like, if it's Logic, stick with that and just really learn it, because the goal is to like get into a workflow that you can use to like make music. And you can figure out like the live stuff afterwards. Like if you ever want to play live shows, like, okay, then you can move on to something like Ableton, which is what I would ultimately recommend for live show performance. But like for writing, just getting started, like just pick one. Even if it's like GarageBand, pick it. Like you can still make great music with GarageBand, but just like kind of like really like stick with it and learn the ins and outs. That's what I did with Ableton. I just kind of like, a friend recommended that to me, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna use this. I'm gonna like learn the ins and outs. I'm just gonna go on YouTube. Anytime I'm trying to do something, I'll literally just go on YouTube and try to like see how they do it, see if it makes sense. Rinse and repeat.
Right.
And that's, to me, that's honestly just the key, is just like that kind of commitment to it, So I would say, but in general, I would say Ableton's a great all around, like great DAW to write music and perform with. So I would recommend Ableton, and there's a lot of great support for how to use it to get over that initial learning curve. So that'd be my advice.
Well said. Make Mistakes would like to know which artists in the vapor or related genres are must listen.
Is this a question for all three of us or just for me?
Well, I mean, you can start for sure.
Yeah.
I never know the answers to these off top.
I know.
In the vaporwave space specific,
Or like
or
related,
adjacent.
or adjacent. Okay. I would say, like, I mean, at least in the vaporwave space, like, I don't know what's the take here. Is George?
Sure.
He's a vaporwave king, or
Kind of.
maybe-
I mean, he literally has a song called Vapor King.
Right. 18 Karat Affair, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would you
good
consider
choice.
that? Yeah.
Yep. Excellent choice, actually.
Again, like, man, if you want to look at someone who kind of paved the way a little bit, in my opinion, Vectroid, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Any of her like early stuff. Yeah. Outside of that, I mean, I have a fondness for James Ferraro. What's the classic record that he did?
Well, there's the Night Dolls and Hairspray, whatever.
You're talking about
And then he did.
The Mall one.
with the with the little like
Virtual
icon
Mall.
on the cover.
Yes, that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
one.
Oh, it's called Far.
To understand this album, go to
Far
Starbucks.
Farside Virtual. Thank you.
Yes. I feel like that's just like a great snapshot in time of like when all of that aesthetic in all caps was like
Yeah.
starting to like kind of
Turn
be
to gel.
identified. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen to that record. It's a good one.
Very cool.
Yeah. Those are good one, a few good ones to start with, I think.
Skelly says he knows some. You want to go ahead first? Because
Well,
I
just
don't.
swing and say Bewilder Beast. Just go listen to
Bewilder Beast. Nice.
Bewilder Beast.
Definitely a fan of 18 Karat Affair, especially Life of Ice. Vectroid's Actually, Seed and Synthetic Earth is a newer album. I mean, I love all of her work, but I really like Seed and Synthetic Earth. Soft Replica's album, kind of a newer one, but oh, he's gonna kill me. I'm blanking on the name of his album, but Soft Replica. You would actually probably really like Soft Replica, Carlos, if you've not heard it. It's very, very like
check it out.
vaporwave meets shoegaze. Only Ever in Dreams. That's what it's called, I believe.
Okay.
Very like 4AD Records-esque, but like vaporwave. Yeah.
Wow, you had me at 4AD.
Yeah, yeah. I wish he was here. He's actually one of our mods. I'm surprised he's not here.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, at the end of the day, those are some good recs. You guys can run with those. Are you still using Twitter?
Not really, especially
Not really?
with like everything. Yeah.
What
These days-
social medias do you prefer, if any?
Mostly Instagram is probably what I'm most active with. I never had really good success with Twitter. Like, I don't know, I don't have that much to say that's interesting. And also, like, Twitter's just kind of like a hot mess right now. You know?
Oh, dude, it's so laggy. Like, it's broken, man.
God
Goddamn.
Well, I guess it's X now or whatever.
On mobile, it's fine, but I'm outing myself as a like desktop user, but on desktop, it's gross. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Instagram. That's probably the main one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you can follow Navigator on, I believe it's Navigator Beats, right?
I think I changed it. I think it's.
Is it I Am Navigator? This is Navigator? Okay, This is Navigator.
It's a callback to Steady Drift for one of the songs on the last song on the album was a sample. It's like a robot sample. Like this,
oh yeah, the guy goes,
Navigator.
"This is Navigator," and then there's like this like huge like swirl of sounds.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
Yeah, that song fucks, dude. Oh man, Pacific Plaza always has the great questions. He's a vapor historian like we are. He wants to know what Facebook groups were you in back in the early 2010s.
Well, first of all, I don't know if I would call myself a vaporwave historian.
No. Pacific Plaza is.
Okay,
you
gotcha,
you were
sorry.
definitely around, but no, that.
I was just sort of like floating around. Facebook groups. I don't know if there were any in particular. Wasn't it? Well, hey, hang on. Who ran Chill Mega Chill? You guys remember that?
Yeah,
Yes.
Chill Mega Chill Records. Yeah, they
That was a record label. That's right.
Something. He also contributed to drifts and stuff. That guy's a doctor now, actually.
Unreal.
Whoa, no way.
The other
Yeah,
doctor
he
in the scene.
put out
This is a dank doctor.
He put out Mirror Kisses albums.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow,
Other things of note.
that's
I used to
right.
love Chill
He
Mega
was
Chill.
out there.
I used to love Chill Mega Chill. I
The
always thought they had
Chiller.
really nice designs for their cassettes.
Yeah.
I contributed to like one of their Chiller compilations. They would
Oh,
do
Yeah.
cool.
like Halloween.
Yeah. I remember. I think they had a group, and then Chillwave, Indie, Glo-Fi,
Chill
Hypnagogic.
Mega
Oh,
Chill
dude,
also
I forgot
using
about Chillwave
using the,
Indie
using the
Glo-Fi.
flamingo
Fucking
first before anybody else,
Glo-Fi.
in my opinion.
Like what?
Yeah.
What was the difference between Chillwave and Glo-Fi?
You're asking the wrong person, dude.
To me, like the Glo-Fi was the more like hip hop and R&B oriented, like kind of influence
Okay.
stuff. But that doesn't mean anything. That's just the thing I made up in my head.
No, I mean, sure, why not? Like, let's commit it to history. You know,
Right.
Like, who knows? But yeah, I think that was one. Man, I don't know. I can't really think of too many others, but those are a couple that came to mind.
Damn. We do
Yeah.
need to know what the difference between Chillwave and Glo-Fi is. I'm gonna have to look that shit up.
Somebody. I
I feel like that's a made-up genre, like Detroit Neo Hypertronica.
Yeah, I would know.
Do you have any favorite videos that you can recommend to us, whether they're on YouTube or Vimeo, Synesthesia, or just like anything that like, even if it's like a dumbass video, just like what is your favorite
Yeah.
video?
Oh man, there is this one. Is Tryptophan on the chat? He's my good
Tryptophan
buddy.
is a great, amazing, wonderful person. I don't think
Yes,
they're
he
in
is.
chat right now. They tune
Okay.
in regularly to Lux's Neon Nights
Okay, yeah.
episodes, but I don't
So-
think they're in right now.
Tryptophan is a good friend of mine. I've known him for I think I met him back in like 2009.
Oh, is he as cool as I want him to be?
He's absolutely the coolest.
He's been like a TSQ fan, like
oh
for
yeah,
years.
he's
so wild.
That dude will scrounge SoundCloud and find the most obscure like Russian beat tapes. Like it's like the stuff that he finds is pretty incredible. So you could probably talk here.
Honestly, he'd be a great person to bring on the chat. He's been around, as long as we have. Longer, probably.
He would be able to, he'd be able to, talk your heads off. Why did I bring him up?
Because we were talking about videos that you really liked.
So we used to pass around or like reshare this video of like you guys know Big Mo, like Texas, chopped screwdriver.
Yeah,
there used to be a super slowed down like YouTube video of, I mean, it was like 50% slowed down, and it was like Big Mo rap, like doing a freestyle, and like Shasta was in it. I forget who else, but they're all in this van, and just like he just sounds like molasses, like like, and it was like chopped and screwed, like, you know, doing those edits.
Something from like Echo Jams.
Yeah, but it was we would just like, it would crack us up, and we loved the music because it was awesome. It was like so slowed down and chopped. If I can find that video, I'll send it to you.
Oh, dude, yeah,
so
please
great,
do.
man.
Throw it in the community Discord chat.
Yeah,
we would
so
love
good.
that.
Yeah,
that's clean.
Yeah.
All right, what is, in your opinion, the biggest problem with music right now?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to just one thing, man. I feel like, actually, I was talking with Tryptophan sort of about this the other day. Like, the immediacy, I think, that exists with like consuming music is a good thing, and it's sort of a not so great thing. So for those of us who like lived before the time of like Spotify and like streaming music, like you would go to the record store and you would like, you know, or just like browse and like discover new music.
Yeah.
It became like a religious experience almost.
Yeah, we do it like on the
something.
weekend. I go early and I just go to my local independent record store and just kind of like scroll through the used records to see what movies I got for
it got so exhausting, but it was so fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, and like there was that, or you had a friend who was like your, at least from my experience, like there was always one friend who was like, he always knows like the coolest new bands like to listen to, and like you would be able to like kind of bond over that a little bit, and like
get like the CD, and inside would be like an insert for like the record label, and it would tell you all the other bands that were on it.
Yeah, or even how to like write to the band, you know, like and you just like the sort of ritual of like that unboxing of like physical media, like I don't know, it's we kind of lost that experience in favor of just like having quicker access, which again, it's great to be able to like explore new stuff very quickly. CDs,
that's why I bought this CD, because I'm old and I miss that shit too.
Yeah, and I feel like music has become more commoditized, I guess. Like it's more about like you said earlier, Skelly, like how do we, it's not even like music anymore, it's content. Like, and all the like thought pieces and articles on how to be successful in music is how do you produce the most like as much as possible on a regular basis, so that your people have stuff to consume. Like we may as well like just hook an IV up to people's arms to like consume, you know, and like there's no sort of like reflection or like time spent like I feel like no one really like
ruminating on stuff.
Isn't it? No one like listens to like a full album necessarily with the sort of like kind of ritual that used to be done, you know, like you sit down, you kind of listen to it, or you read through the booklet, like you're reading like the story about the, like you're kind of like going into this world, like you don't you look, we lost that, you know. And then as like the creator of music now, like you're sort of forced to exist in this world of like constant like consumption. I kind of struggle with that with like my music, because again, like I try to like be very intentional with how I release music and like make music. I try to tell a story, create a snapshot in time. It's difficult, you know, like to kind of like do that like in a rush, you know. So,
you know, man,
I
feel that. I'm a terrible crate digger. I'm a good one, but I'm also really bad because like I need to listen to things multiple times. If I buy an album, I'll listen to it and then I'll wait till the next day and I'll listen to it again.
Yeah.
Like, not to like suck my own dick or anything, but like I believe in ruminating on things too, and so
You know-
like I consume music really slowly because of that
Yes.
reason.
And a good example for me, anyways, that I can relate to with that is Channel Pressure from Ford Patton. What, you know, like coming off the back of like games and the initial EP, like when I first heard Channel Pressure, I was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. You know, like I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But then I gave myself the chance to kind of really like listen to it multiple times, like kind of reflect on it. And that was like one of my like top 5 records.
That
ever.
happened
like,
to me too.
You know,
Yeah.
and like I don't know if most people do that nowadays. Oh,
We lost the good doctor. He'll be back.
Yeah, I don't know if. Hey, we got Skelly back.
My internet cut out for a minute there.
Yeah. Anyways,
Better yours than mine.
I don't know if people have like that. Take the time to like give music that kind of chance, like especially at the album level. So you know, it's very like focused on like marketing singles and like, you know, kind of trying to get stuff to go viral.
Yeah.
I don't know. I realize I sound like an old fogey, kind of like having that kind of point of view, but to me it's a real thing. I think it's like
It's magical.
really,
I don't think
really
there's
is
anything
something
wrong.
lost there.
There's nothing wrong with the way kids are doing it, but like that was magical, and I definitely can recommend it.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say just like because you know like the other kind of thing that happens now without having physical albums, like you're forced to like make a living like touring essentially and
Right,
like,
or selling merch.
Which you know obviously like touring is a huge part, and like I love playing shows, I love performing, but I don't know. Yeah, I think just in general this just like I wonder if like streaming has done more bad than good.
Right.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah, so it's one of those struggles, man. With I guess technology in general, like the ease and access, the more it gives us, the more it takes away, and like
Yeah.
we need to evaluate like what are we losing in favor of these games, you know? So
Yeah.
turns into a bigger conversation, I guess.
No,
so.
thoroughly agree. We got another user submitted question, courtesy of Make Mistakes. Do you consider yourself a successful musician, and by what metric do you measure that?
No, I mean, well, yeah, that's the question, right? Like, what is success for a musician? Am I proud of the work that I put out? Yeah, like, are there people who appreciate my work? Don't know if I would be here if that wasn't the case. Like here talking with you all, which I'm eternally grateful for. Like that's one of the best feelings in the world.
Oh yeah, we're like the super fans, man.
Well, yeah, and that's like again, like I was telling you earlier, I've always been like a big supporter of like, you know, what I do and my music, and that's like amazing to me. I can't thank you enough for that, and thanks for having me on this show. This is awesome.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, I mean, I look on those things as successes. Am I rich because of the music that I make? Nope. Do I share the same level of like adoration as some other folks like that are adjacent to vaporwave or in the vaporwave community? Definitely not. Like, you know, there's plenty of good examples of people who, you know, maybe make similar types of music to me that are infinitely more successful. But so yeah, I don't know. I think I would consider myself someone who's been around a long time and I've been fortunate enough to have people consume my music to a certain extent, but I don't know if I'd call myself like like certainly no. I don't feel like there are laurels for me to rest on yet or anything. Like there's
Right.
definitely more I can do, and there's more. I don't know. There's more stuff lying ahead. I think that I can start to explore in terms of making music. So I don't know. That's a tough one to answer
Yeah.
succinctly, I guess.
Yeah, they even said in chat like they knew it was a toughie. But it was a good one.
It
It's a
is.
good question.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure every artist wrestles with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think like even artists who have like maybe like what is like classically considered success, if we're defining it in terms of like record sales or like global awareness, you know, like I feel like even they kind of struggle with that. Like,
Yeah.
what does their work amount to? Like, that's why you see so many. You read so many like you know, different stories about people like that. So like, yeah, what is success? That's the real question, you know.
Well, why do you think some artists are like they blow up? Maybe they make a lot of money, or they just become like a, you know, the touchstone for their genre, and others don't. Like other maybe objectively more skilled or like interesting artists don't.
Yeah. By the way, you just made me think of like, remember XXYYXX?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
I think it's a great
Absolutely.
example.
Weren't they like 16 when they made that like shit?
He was, yeah. Marcel, yeah, from Florida, Orlando, like.
Oh, nice.
You know, like
Very cool.
weird market, I guess. But blew up, right? I personally don't know what he's been up to lately. Maybe he's doing stuff behind the scenes, like.
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, to your question, like, is it a matter of like being more talented or not? I don't think that's it. I think they're incredibly talented artists who are bad at like promoting themselves, or are bad at like making network connections, which is super important in the music industry. Also having like some level of business acumen. That's one thing that I noticed with George, like before he kind of like blew up and started doing 100% electronica. Like I remember talking to him, and like he was like sort of acknowledging it's like kind of like a business, you know, like you have to like be thinking in those terms. And if you look at him, like, you know, he's doing incredibly well. He's, you know, collaborating with like 311 or Nick Hexum and all these people.
Yeah.
So I think there's a level of like knowing how to kind of conduct yourself on the business side too. And then there's also this element of just like being in the right place at the right time and being able to like seize those opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people say like it's less about like, it's more about like you can create certain opportunities, but then you also have to like recognize when an opportunity exists and then like try to seize on it. And if you don't know how to do that well, like you can miss out. Like I've definitely been, you know, guilty of that in my sort of musical career. Like I still feel like I'm really bad at like marketing myself, promoting myself. I'm just not great at it. I'd love to work with like an agent to just take on all that stuff. So I think it's more, yeah, it's just a mix of those things. Like talent, like I've seen some amazing like electronic musicians who do really great work, but then they just kind of like fizzle out a little bit, you know, and then don't continue to do anything or lose interest. It's really easy to be discouraged too. I've definitely suffered from that. Like you put so much heart and effort into something, and you know, maybe you can relate to this too, like Skyly, like, you know, you put a lot of effort into making music. And if you've ever had like a show with like 5 people, you know, it's a bummer, you know, or like 5 people like buy it when you upload it to Bandcamp, you know. That's
why I throw parties, not shows.
Yeah.
I branded as parties.
Parties. And that's part of the sort of like, that's part of the mindset. Like the brand is a huge part of it. Like, what do you stand for? Like,
no one wants to come to it. No, well, it might be hard to sell a show, but you can sell a dance party.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's a mix
I
of
understand
those
completely.
things.
It's a big
Yeah.
deal. You know what I mean? It's a big
Yeah.
deal when you make music. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's like it's very exhausting. And you're like, gosh, I
Yeah.
really hope I don't fuck it up when I release this. I hope I like know how to get this to some people.
Exactly. And then I think what sort of makes that part of it tolerable, because I feel like every artist goes to that to some extent.
Mhm.
Part of it is just like resilience and just like pushing through that and just keep like
True.
continue to make the art, continue to do the work, and then ultimately, like, if it's not resonating with people now, it's who's to say it won't resonate with someone later on.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
could
maybe
end up
they'll
being a
find it
cult
later.
classic.
And even then, like, the most important thing is like, how do you feel as an artist about it? Like, are you proud? Like, I look back at Surface and I feel very proud of it, because I felt like I told a good story that I wanted to tell. It's not blown up the charts or anything, but people really resonated with a lot of the stuff on that album. And I think that in a large part makes it worth it, to continue making music. So that's why I'm going to continue to make music. So.
Please do. We like to usually use these last few minutes to let you kind of promo anything that you want, shout anything out or tell us about anything you've got coming up, drop some links. So go right ahead.
Sure. I think the big thing I've got coming up is we'll be doing a DJ set this Saturday with Small Black. They're also doing a DJ set.
Yeah, saw that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That'll be at the 8th State Brewing Company in Greenville, South Carolina.
Nice. Isn't that where you saw Autograph and Comtrues and Persona La Ave?
Yeah.
Yep. I missed that, and I'm still mad about it. Especially when I found out you were there.
Yeah, just in attendance, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'll be doing that. I have a ton of different side projects musically that I'm working on.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then trying to figure out what to do next for Navigator. I think the next thing probably that'll come out will be a follow-up to the Infinity mixtape. And I've been saying that for a while now, but that's probably the next thing I'll put out. So
you got to keep me apprised of that situation. I hold that mixtape very, very dear to my heart. I remember showing it to the girl I was dating at the time, being like, every single song on here is a banger. Like, it doesn't stop. Even the 30-second perfect loop at the end that just loops perfectly over and over. I was just like, they're all bangers, all of them.
That's very sweet of you. I'm gonna try to recreate that. So we'll see. I got a ton of stuff on my hard drive. It's just
nice.
Like finishing the songs and then just picking them out.
I love it. Thanks so much for coming on our show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me. And
absolutely.
This was fun.
We love to chat with the OGs. Skelly, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. April 28th is the Dark Synth Witch House Funk Party. July 28th.
Oh, cool. So in 4 days.
Is the Witch House Funk Dark Synth party, a dance party I throw called Eclipse. It will be at the 700 Club. That's this Friday. And come to that if you're in Philadelphia at the 700 Club. I'm also going to be doing the after parties for This is Hardcore Fest in Philadelphia, and that will be on August 4th at Underground Arts. And in addition to that, I have the new album pretty much done, just need to tweak with frequencies. But if you want to hear music from the new album, if you want to see what I've been cooking up, you can go catch the replay of Helios 3 and go to and it's a long replay, right? It's like 48 hours. Well, I play at approximately hour number 7 at the very top of the hour. So if you could scroll to hour 7, minute 1, that'll put you right at where I perform at. So if you want to hear what the new music sounds like, you can go listen to it, a bunch of it, at the Helios performance. I think I played like 5 or 6 songs from it.
I missed it because I was at work. I was so mad.
Oh, you can go to the Twitch replay for Ming Curie's Twitch replay for Helios 3 and go to hour number 7 at approximately 7:01. That's when I perform.
Nice. Perfect. Anything else, King?
That's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep mine brief as well. I was also part of Helios 3. Shout out Ming Curry. 20 minutes of cloud rap. I don't know when mine is. I've got it on SoundCloud and YouTube. If you like main attractions, or stuff like Blady, Bones, Young Lean, Xavier Wolf, but I didn't use those guys. Some good old cloud rap. Check it out. Some Little Ugly Mane in there, But anyways, got a set I worked up for a unannounced live stream event that is still being put together. 20 minutes of Outrun Synthwave, plenty of Calm Trues, the Midnight, Mega Drive, that kind of stuff. Pretty proud of that set. And then in less than a week, on Saturday at 6 p.m. Central in Madison, Wisconsin, at the High Noon Saloon, show up for Midwest Aesthetic presents Summer Synapse, featuring myself, Fire Tools, Vape Error, Sound Market, Luxury Elite, The Queen, headlining, with Lake Waves, A Hero, Simple Syrup, Van Gogh, and another local artist whose name I can never remember. I think it's Dunzo Donald or something like that. You can get tickets at highnoonsaloon.com, I believe, or on Eventbrite. I'm not in a place where I can link that right now, but if you are anywhere near Madison, Wisconsin, thank you, Lux. Buy a ticket. It's $15 in advance. Got to be 18 or older. Come show up because hella fans are coming from far and wide for Midwest Aesthetic. And I may or may not be performing at some larger, not more important. Let me scratch that, reverse it. Some larger, more better known events coming up here pretty soon that we may all be traveling far and wide for. Thank you, Smooth Brain, Dunzo Donalds, and Layers Thompson. Let me get that right. I'm probably forgetting something really important, but I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank our mods. I want to thank Lux for being the link queen. Everybody that helps run the stream and the Discord server, thank you. Thank you, Indie Advent. Indie Advent is the only reason that our broadcasts ever end up on YouTube or podcasting services, which they will be in the next few days, by the way, Carlos. Thank you for being a OG in the scene and for making what you made and for being willing to come talk to us tonight. And thank you guys for tuning in and asking questions. If you missed it, don't worry. It'll be on YouTube and podcasting services. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but we're going to run the Midwest Aesthetic ad and say goodnight to everybody. Next week. Not next week. 2 weeks from now. Same time, same place. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday, August 7. Join us for a very special evening with Geometric Lullaby. Dennis will be coming on the show. We're very excited. Tryptophan just showed up. Love you, buddy. Everybody.
Perfect timing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys, and have a wonderful night.
Bye.
Thanks, Kyle.
But so long as my joints lubricate, then every day's my lucky day. I